Hi, my name is Paul, and I decided to make this video to tell you about my journey living with HIV. This year we celebrate 30 years of the Minnesota AIDS Walk, and through the years a lot has changed. When I was 14, I lived in a small Iron Range town, and I remember the first time I heard about AIDS. It was October 1985. I was watching the news and I heard a story about how Rock Hudson had just died. I was just starting to figure out that I liked boys rather than girls, and my first reaction to the story was, if I become gay, I'm going to get AIDS and die. As an isolated gay teenager, I was alone in my thoughts with very little information to help me. It was an extremely powerful moment, and one that would haunt me much later in life. In those very early days of the epidemic, 109 Minnesotans were living with HIV or AIDS. 42 died. In March of 1992, I remember driving down to the Metrodome with my friends from college. It's a building that is now long gone and replaced by something newer, and it's a part of history. But we went down to visit the AIDS Memorial Quilt. It was the second time that it had visited Minnesota, and it was a great chance for me to see the impact of the disease on my community through an important piece of history and a work of art. I remember sitting in the stands after walking around and looking at all of the panels as they filled the entire field, and just had this tremendous sense of sadness, profound sadness. That year, 1,184 Minnesotans were living with HIV or AIDS, and 1,034 people died that year. In 1994, I had just graduated from college, and I moved to Minneapolis. That spring, I attended my first AIDS walk. I still didn't really know anyone with the disease, but as an out gay man, I knew I was in a high-risk group. I helped raise money to fund prevention efforts and build awareness. In the following years, I rarely missed participating in an AIDS walk. For me and many others, it was an important way of participating in our community by giving back to it. That year, unfortunately, 1,564 people were now living with HIV or AIDS across the state. The disease was at its peak, and an average of 4.4 people died of AIDS or AIDS-related diseases every day in Minnesota. On March 30th, 2003, I got my own news. My doctor's office called me and they had me come in. My doctor sat me down and told me that I was HIV positive. At that point, I was in my final days of company-sponsored healthcare, and I was going completely numb and I was completely overwhelmed. The first place I reached out to was the Minnesota AIDS Project here at 1400 Park Avenue. They quickly put me in contact with Positive Link and with Every Penny Counts, and they helped me sort through the paperwork and things that I needed to get taken care of in the very first couple of days. They also helped me find a new doctor, one who specialized in HIV care. That year I became one of the 4,895 Minnesotans who were living with HIV. The good news was now that this was a very different disease. Just 72 people died that year. In May of 2017, I started working for Minnesota AIDS Project, which is now Just Us Health, as the coordinator of the Positive Link program. Today, I'm able to help gay and bisexual men build social support, learn how to stay healthy, deal with stigma and isolation, and begin to thrive despite living with HIV. Last year in Minnesota, 8,789 people were living with HIV or AIDS, and just 75 died. Today I walk because I have hope. I'm no longer that 14-year-old kid who is afraid of dying. I have new hope for new treatments and new science that tells me it's critical to get clients to being undetectable. This also helps our clients to be untransmittable and put an end to transmitting the disease. Being undetectable means that I'm doing my job every single day to live longer and eventually end HIV. But it takes a lot of work every day, and it takes money to help us bring education, support, and services to clients. That's why I need your help. Join me at the Minnesota AIDS Walk as we celebrate 30 years. And more importantly, donate. You can visit my walk page using the links below. Since 1982, when tracking first became available, more than 3,500 people in Minnesota have died from HIV or AIDS. Today, nearly 9,000 people are living long and productive, healthy lives with HIV. Death does not need to be a part of HIV anymore. That's our history. Together, we can be part of the future. Join me, donate, and walk on October 14th.